John Colozzi presented to the Access Pacific user group on how he uses AI-assisted tools, tools like Visual Studio Code, an AI Assistant, MCP, and GitHub to build and manage database applications. This video is his full walkthrough of the actual development work, the tools in use, the procedures that make it repeatable, and the decisions behind them. If you're joining us from the introduction, welcome back. You've already seen the first 16 or 17 minutes of the environment setup, so if you like, you can skip ahead and pick up where we left off. Thank you very much for joining us tonight for the Access Pacific User Group meeting. Tonight we have a presentation on the topic that's on the top of everybody's mind right now, AI, and how to incorporate it successfully into Access work. We're fortunate to have John Colozzi as our presenter. John actually has been using this approach in his work. I don't know, how many months have you been doing this now?
Oh, since about mid-February. So about 2.5 months, maybe.
2.5 months, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's about as long as anybody anywhere is doing it. So we're right on the cutting edge of what's going on, and I think it's very, very exciting. I'm really excited to hear about it. So tonight I will let John introduce himself and talk about how we're going to revolutionize access development with AI. You ready to go?
Great. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I'll stop sharing if you want to share your screen.
okay, perfect. And yeah, so my name is John Colozzi. I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs. I've been there for the past 14 years in the Health Systems Research Department. And recently, I've been developing web app components to enhance databases that I create for research studies and our administrative team. And hopefully tonight I can help impart some of the strategies and tactics that I've used over the past 2.5 months to develop these applications and these web components with AI. So Access isn't dead. It finally does have a co-pilot, and no, not that one, not the one that we're all thinking of. But let me just say, I've had some inspiration. I'm an avid Access User Group viewer. I watch them a lot. And so two videos that stood out to me back in February were Alex Wojcik and Ben Sekerick's videos. Both came out in the same week, actually one day after each other. And if you've ever been in the Access developer community, you're certainly familiar with Daniel P's, Dev Hut, and everything you ever wanted to know about the Access modern web browser control. So that's originally what initially piqued my interest about developing web components within Access, but it wasn't until I saw these two videos that like, okay, now I'm going to go and we're going to do this. So, return of Access web apps? Not exactly, but you can create local web apps that integrate into Microsoft Access. So since mid-February, I've created about 12 different apps. Seems like a lot. And really it was one to enhance some databases that I make with web components, and also just to explore some of the capabilities of developing Access with AI agents. I've developed I've standard Access apps, GDI based app, which is a version of one of Alex's Gantt charts from way back a couple years ago, and some web-based apps and it's all using AI agents within VS Code. So that's what we use in the federal government, and so that's what I've been using. And the first couple that I started to create was using a similar approach to what Ben had described in his video, where he was using some chat windows. I think he was using Microsoft Copilot, going back and forth between that chat window and maybe copying and pasting code into Access. And that became a little clunky, it's a little tedious. So I thought, oh, there's got to be a better way. And luckily, around this time, the VA that I work for was giving out access to GitHub Copilot. So I went ahead and got myself a license for GitHub Copilot, and off I went. So I just want to mention that, like, some of the apps, once again, they're not like meant for production. Some of them are. So a lot of them were kind of thought experiments, really just exploring what you can do with AI. And so I want to give you also a little demo of some of the apps that I have created. So some of the web component apps that I've created is a calendar, a Kanban, a Kanbant, which is a Kanban and a Gantt chart combined, and an Access whiteboard, and a web version of a to-do. The standard versions of Access that I have created was a simple to-do app, and this GDI Gantt chart. So I'm going to start off showing you the Access calendar, and hopefully you'll be able to see this in a second. So this is a web-based calendar that is loaded in a form just called Form Calendar, and it's just an Edge web browser control on the form. That's it. There is one HTML file that loads into this form, and everything is stored within Access tables. And there is a data layer of VBA DAO with custom JSON parsers and serializers to pass data in between. As you can see here, so you can see that there is a meeting for today of the Access Pacific meeting. Although I spelt it wrong, I put AEU instead of AUG. And there's a lot of functionality here. It's pretty much a ton of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. It's all vanilla JavaScript, so no frameworks. And you can, you have a month view, a week view, two different week views of a 5-day and a 7-day, and there's a day view, and you can open up multiple calendars and they'll overlay on there, and you can remove one. So you can have one or two or up to 5, I think, calendars open for this. You can view things in many different ways, and everything, like I said, it's just stored in Access tables using JSON to pass back and forth. So that's the calendar one. Okay, and then we have, as we go along, this is the Kanban. And so if you're not familiar with a Kanban board, it's pretty much you have different slots where you go from to do essentially to done. And sometimes you put things into a backlog. I can drag and drop any of these over. I can open them up. As you see, there's a lot of different fields for particularly start date, end date, start date and time. There's a percentage completion, and that is based on the subtask. If there are subtasks, it all adds up to a certain percentage completion. Um, and so you can have multiple different boards. You can add new boards. You could see the boards in a Gantt chart view, and you can see all the little subtasks and everything, and you can hover over them. You could change the different views of the Gantt chart, and you can collapse things as well. And of course, there's a dashboard too, because we need to keep track of everything that's going along in all of our boards. Oops, and this doesn't want to work. And then you could select different boards too to drill down. And you can change the color schemes light to dark. That's also the same for the calendar. And you could change the color of the boards and the accent color. So if we wanted to change this to green, we could change that to green. And everything changes. All right. Once again, everything is stored in Access tables, all object-oriented code, just a couple different forms in there. As you see, this one actually has a pub sub form behind it to feed any new tasks from other people. So tasks will automatically pop up because they're constantly polling the back end for any new tasks by your coworkers. And the last one that I'm going to demo for you is the GDI Gantt chart. I'll make that a little bit bigger for you. So this is a Gantt chart based off of Alexander W.'s Gantt chart. Well, I may have to go back a little bit further to see some stuff. Okay, there we go. And so this looks similar to the Gantt chart that I just showed you in the Kanbans, different projects and stuff, but they have different day, week, month, quarter. This one got a little wonky, so probably not going to use this approach. Probably going to use the web a little bit more, but it was once again a good thought experiment to try to see what Access can do with AI. Okay, how did I do some of this stuff? First, I want to shift your mindset. I think our friend George said it best over on Access World forums that you have to assume the role of a project manager or a product manager and assign your AI the role of enable assistant. Normally, as an Access developer, you're sitting on the other side of the table, you're listening, you're deciphering what people need, and then you produce it. You're now sitting on the other end of the table, and you're telling the AI what you need and letting it develop. So just very quickly, there's been some industry observations. I found this on LinkedIn, and this is a principal engineer at Google, that project managers are running circles around software engineers with vibe coding and Gen A prototyping tools. And this is a good thing because it allows engineers to focus on making products scalable and sustainable while PM's focus is on moving the ball forward. And one of the comments in this post was they believe that a major determinant for successfully using AI is the ability to write with precision and clarity. So now that we got that out of the way, how did I do this? So I did this with an integrated development environment that has an AI agent. So there's a whole bunch of new AI IDEs coming out. You're probably very familiar with Visual Studio Code that has GitHub Copilot. I believe there's also a Claude Code extension too, but there's Google Anti-Gravity, there's OpenAI Codex and Cursor and many more. The key features is that these specialized code editors, they can do agentic capabilities. They can code, they can debug, they have project-wide context awareness. A lot of these ones provide a free tier, but of course, pro or premium plans are preferred. You're going to hit probably a limit with any free tier, but the key features are that they're context aware. So the IDEs have context of your entire project to provide intelligent suggestions based on your whole code base, not just the current file. There's agentic workflows. So agents can plan, code, test, and debug, allowing developers to focus on higher level decisions rather than boilerplate. You can code with natural language. You can prompt the IDE to generate, refactor, or explain code using plain English. And there's also inline editing and chat. Tools allow for highlighting code to modify it instantly or chat with AI about errors. So next thing is set up a workspace as a knowledge base. So in Visual Studio Code, like I use, you can create a workspace, which is pretty much just a collection of one or more folders that have been opened in a VS Code window. By creating a workspace, it allows the AI agents to access and evaluate any folder that has been added to that workspace. Agents can transfer over anything relevant to your new project. An added benefit is that MCP servers and custom agents or anything that you do in that folder is set up at a workspace level, reducing the need to configure them in each project folder. And if you're not familiar with what an MCP is, we'll get to that a little bit later. What does a workspace folder setup look like? I said that you should set up a workspace and use it. In your workspace directory, you can have special folders, especially within VS Code. I'm sure within other platforms, there probably is a similar schema, but within VS Code, you can have these .github and .vs Code folders. And in the .github folder, you can have agents, hooks, instructions, prompts, and skills. And in VS Code, the one thing that you probably want is an mcp.json file to have all your MCP servers. So MCP is Model Context Protocol, and we'll get into that after this. But these files and folders help customize how agents complete your work using Markdown files and JSON. Agents define custom AI agents or personas specialized for your repository. Hooks executes custom shell commands automatically at key lifecycle points during agent sessions. Instructions stores always on instructions for Copilot's general behavior within the repository. And it's similar to kind of agents, just different in a little way. And there's prompts. So if you reuse prompts all the time in a particular way, it stores prompt templates for agents to use, encouraging consistent, repeatable outcomes. Skills provides folders of instructions, scripts, and resources that Copilot can load when relevant to performing specialized tasks. And MCP JSON gives agents the tools to work with your database. Tools are schema-defined interfaces that LLMs can invoke. MCPs use the JSON schema for validation, and each tool performs a single operation with clearly defined inputs and outputs. Tools may require user consent prior to execution to help ensure users maintain control over actions taken by the model. And this last one is kind of optional, but you can include a raw folder. And a raw folder is your curated collection of source documents, articles, papers, images, data files, code. These are immutable. The LLM reads them but never modifies them. You keep this as your source of truth. Um, and What is an MCP server and why should you use one? So MCP, it's Model Context Protocol. It's a protocol that was developed by Anthropic and open sourced. It's an open source standard for connecting AI applications to external systems. Using MCP and like Claude or ChatGPT or anything like that allows you to connect to local files or databases or other tools like search engines, calculators, and workflows such as specialized prompts, enabling them to access key information and perform tasks on your behalf. If you could think of MCP like a USB-C port for AI applications, just as USB-C provides a standard way to connect to electronic devices, MCP provides a standard way to connect AI applications to external systems. So what's available for Access developers in the MCP world? So there's several, actually. I was surprised to find. I use the first one. That's the one that I am familiar with. However, there are several, as you could see here, and I even have one that's not an Access MCP server. I have an additional one for you guys, the Microsoft Learn MCP server, which is the official Microsoft Docs on the Learn platform that you can use as a reference for any, official code docs. But as you can see, so there's about 4 that do operations of database operations. So like running queries, creating queries, but also will do VBA code, but also any object manipulation or creation as well. And then there's some that only focus on database operations only. So pretty much any CRUD, SQL stuff. So I'm going to focus on talking about the first one, the Materia MCP access. And so if you just want to see what an MCP JSON file might look like, this is what mine looks like. So it's just one file within my workspace. There's a VS Code folder with an MCP JSON. And as you can see, I have 2 servers in there. So there's the Microsoft Learn one, and then there's the Access one, which is that Materia one. And it's pointed to where I have the Access server on my local file share. Okay, so what can an Access MCP server do, such as the Materia one? And I'm taking this directly from their GitHub page. It can create forms, it can write VBA, design tables, manage controls, run queries, build relationships, edit every corner of your database, all through natural language. There's 62 tools, and it makes Access something that you can talk to. The AI handles everything through COM automation and does all the ugly parts. You just get the results. So it could touch forms, reports, VBA code, create controls, can create tables, modify your tables, run SQL queries, create relationships and indexes and all that stuff. And then even provide some maintenance too of compacting and repair and decompiling bloated databases and such. And I was so impressed with it, I had to reach out to the dev when he made a Reddit post on our MS Access, just telling him that how impressive it was and to keep up the good work and whatnot. And that's how I found out about it. So literally like towards the end of February is when I got access to GitHub Copilot, this was released like at the exact same time. So it was like perfect timing. Great. So now that we have that, you got to use an AI IDE, create a workspace. Now, what do you do? How do you prompt for success to create an Access database or these web components and stuff? So, first of all, don't be vague. I mean, these are models that are predicting the next token, right? So, it's good to be clear and concise about what you want, your intentions for the app, its use case, and your instructions for the agent. Also, have the AI create a product requirements document. This is a big thing in the industry right now. There's a lot of PRD techniques, but pretty much you just describe in detail the specs desired for your application. You tell the agent to write everything down, like UI, UX design, data layers, table schemas, implementation plan, all in markdown folders in your project folder. And I would suggest watching another Access User Group video, how to use Access with AI by Juan Soto and Juan Holunya for more on PRDs and tasks and stuff. And yes, have them create a list of tasks. That implementation task list will keep both of you, the AI agent and the developer, on track. And I usually tell the agent to only mark off items once features have been fully tested. And, you know, if perchance your agent gets stuck, you can prompt it to review where it left off in the plan and resume where it left off. But also, you can have your AI ask you clarifying questions. This will remove ambiguity from the design phase or any implementation plans, and keep that human in the loop factor. So what does a prompt look like? And you have an app scenario, you're trying to vibe code with it or do some prompt engineering. This is a sample, an older sample of mine, but I think it gets it across well enough. It's clear enough. It's concise enough. I think it has enough intention behind it. So I will usually write something like 3, maybe 4 paragraphs, and I'm expecting the AI agent to now, prompt me back with some questions clarifying some of my needs. So I'll say something like, you are a software engineer and I want to create a Kanban database in Microsoft Access. Help me plan out the schemas and the user interface and the features and implementation steps. Write everything down in markdown files in the folders. Ask questions. Don't assume. This is a big project. And I put this as a big project in there because it kind of adds a little weight to the AI agents. And you'll actually see if they're thinking, they'll say like, oh, this is a big project. I need to carefully focus on this and stuff like that. So then I'll go on and I'll start to describe the spec. So the idea is that I want my Kanban boards and tasks to be stored in Access tables using relational database best practices and normalization. The Kanban interface should be written in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The interface should open in an Access form in an Edge Web View 2 browser control. Design all the VBA and JS code to be object oriented, use common software design patterns and structures. There should be features to change the Kanban board color scheme, light and dark mode. Users should be able to add new boards, select different boards, delete boards, add new tasks, edit, complete tasks. Each task should have a start and end date, projects, progress status, completion percentage, allow for subtasks. And then lastly, use subagents to help plan and use the MCP Access server to implement the act. I've attached another project for working reference on how web interfaces can interact with Access databases and use any applicable code from the other folder or database. Seems like a lot, but this will start the AI to think about, plan, use subagents, and we'll get into using subagents in a little bit. It'll use the MCP Access server, and it'll ask some clarifying questions about features, what kind of object-oriented design patterns I want to use. And I've had a lot of success with a prompt similar to this. So, as you're developing and you heard, use subagents. You can parallelize your work. You could divide up that work between subagents and have a main agent be the orchestrator and allow it to spawn as many as it sees fit. So subagents are specialized independent AI assistants designed to handle specific tasks, such as research, coding, debugging, delegated by a primary agent. They operate in isolated contexts, enabling parallel workflows and preventing context window overload in tools like GitHub Copilot, Cloud Code, etc. They boost your efficiency by automating complex multi-step projects. You could also specify which models you want to use as subagents. A lot of times, and as you could see in this picture, I say use Claude Haiku 4.5 subagents, and I was using Claude Opus 4.6. And it dispatched 4 subagents in parallel. And so that made my work go a lot quicker. So, as you're developing and everything, of course, you're going to want to test everything in stages. That PRD should be created where everything's implemented in phases or stages. And you're going to want to test everything and use version control. But I just want to say, like, hey, these agents can mock synthetic data for you. I know when I am testing things, a lot of times I want to see some data in there already loaded before I start manually testing everything. But also, since I started writing in more object-oriented code in VBA with agents, you can have them write automated tests for you now with the MCP server. And of course, using version control keeps everything clear, concise, and you can, roll changes back, you can fork, you can do lots of things, but they can handle the whole Git workflow for you. They can create that repo, they can add your files, write the commits and commit everything, they can push it to GitHub and all that stuff. And those 3 steps, you can also tell the agent to say, hey, let's automate this. Let's create a skill or a custom set of instructions or a hook to do these things, and they'll help you do it. And also, as you're developing and you're testing everything, I'm going to let you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words or possibly even tokens. Who knows? These agents are multimodal, meaning they can process text and images. They may be able to process audio and video. I'm not necessarily sure, but I know they can definitely process images. You can wireframe up drawings to show how you want the AI to design things, or you can take a screenshot of a similar app for design references. Or when you're debugging, you can use screenshots. Like for instance, if a UI element is out of place and you want an element located in another spot. And feel free to go ahead and mark up your screenshots. I like to use red and green to indicate good and bad. And I'm going to show you a couple screenshots now, just to see what I mean. So when I was debugging, this was for the GDI Gantt chart. Oops, I'm sorry. I literally just took a screenshot and put please troubleshoot in the chat while I attach this screenshot. And this screenshot is pretty clear. As you can see, it was able to find out what form I'm on, what lines I'm on, exactly where it was, and what it was, because there was some error handling that wrote things to the immediate window. And it fixed it just from a simple screenshot and me saying, please troubleshoot. Next, this was for when I was creating the calendar. I asked to be able to select multiple calendars, have both tabs showing, or all the tabs showing for multiple calendars, and I wanted the tabs to show above the calendar. Well, it did two things. It did load both calendars, but it loaded tabs on the side, and it only loaded one tab, and they weren't, obviously on the top. So I took this pick and I wrote on it, two selected, one tab shown, move the tabs to above the calendar. And once again, put that in the chat, attached it, said, please troubleshoot. Maybe I wrote a little description of just like this, caveman style, not very wordy. Fixed it immediately. And for this was my Kanban. I initially got the Gantt chart loading along with my Kanban. And this part over here is the Gantt chart, but I wanted to move the controls from the Gantt chart HTML file to the index HTML, which is what the header is. And so I gave it some directions, little red, little green, move button to the header, move controls to the header. AI fixed it. So what are some additional pain points that you're going to have while working with MCP servers and Access and AI agents? So obviously you're going to need to debug tons of issues with your AI agents and their database tools. Prompts like these and all these techniques that I told you, they'll get you about 90% of the way there to a working app, but you do have to go through troubleshooting and debugging with the AI agents. And what I've noticed sometimes happening is that things don't appear to be moving along. Your agent seems to be stuck. Nothing appears on the Access database. You could have a silent pop-up lurking that you can't see and is holding up progress. So you need to interact with the database every once in a while. This particularly happens when agents code like class modules or standard modules outside and tries importing them. And that save dialog is hidden. It's just not appearing. So that's when I've noticed, like, you have that silent pop-up lurking and it's holding up your progress. And sometimes the MCP goes stale. I've had times during my sessions where I'm coding and I get distracted. I have to do something else and I come back and in the same chat, ask it to use the MCP server and it's not working anymore. I need to go back and restart it and that sort of stuff. Similarly, while debugging, um, if a bug hasn't been fixed repeatedly in the same chat, it's best to start a new chat. And that's due to something called context rot or chat poisoning. I've learned this from a developer named Burke Holland. Uh, he posts on the VS Code YouTube channel, and he had a little short. And amazingly enough, yes, sometimes just starting over is really helpful. You start with a fresh slate, like a fresh pair of eyes. And occasionally, as you're working with the agents and the MCP servers, you'll need to manage open instances manually. If something's caught up in debug mode or you have one of those silent pop-ups in the background, the agent will open multiple instances of the same file. And so you might say to yourself, why do I have three of the same file open? And you go ahead and you have to close them down, sometimes all of them, and just let the AI start over again. Other things that I've noticed is that there might be duplicate code blocks or duplicate end statements at end sub, end function sort of statements, duplicate option compare database and option explicit blocks and stuff. So with all that said, there is also an alternative to MCP, and there's been a debate recently, probably within the last month, maybe a month and a half, of MCP versus CLI. And, agents can use the command line interface to interact with Access databases through PowerShell COM. One of the ways I found this out was through the MCP server going stale, and the agent finished my changes using PowerShell. So I had a light bulb moment and said, let me create a whole PowerShell COM module for working with Access based off of Unmateria's MCP Access server. So if you're interested, you can go to my GitHub and check it out. It wraps up this PowerShell module with a custom agent and some custom instructions. And the agent knows to reference my PowerShell module to complete its tasks. I also have the Access calendar and the Access Kanban available on my GitHub so people can check out the code for that and use it. I also want to leave you off with some resources about things that we talked about today. So things like agent skills, hooks, instructions, all that sort of stuff. You can find more information at the awesome GitHub Copilot GitHub page. And there's also one for awesome Cloud Code. And the developer on GitHub that I told you about, Burke Holland, he's great for tips and tricks about using GitHub Copilot Chat and CLI. And then for skills, Matt Pocock, or I don't know if that's how you say his name, but he builds small, easily adaptable and composable skills for real engineers. He's got a skill called Grill Me right now that is becoming viral. And essentially the skill has the AI agent grill the developer or the person over and over relentlessly until all details have been hashed out. So it's not like your standard PRD where it might ask you like 5 questions or something. This might ask you like 100, might ask you 150 questions just to nail down everything. And lastly, happy coding. And thank you. That's all I have today.
Oh, that was funny.
I love that cartoon. Well, great. Thank you very much, John. I hope you can stick around for a little while because I'm sure there will be lots of comments, questions, and answers. Let's give a round of applause to John for this.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, I
Thank
kind
you.
of put him on the spot by asking him to talk about something that nobody really knows much about yet. I think I was looking at the chat. Adrian has been using AI since, what did you say, November or October? And so this is just, that's one of the longer tenures, and we're all at the same point. And I appreciate John being willing to step up and help us understand what's going on. So with that,